Ryan Lawrence covers the Phillies for PhillyVoice.com. The Phillies have won 8 of their last 12 games. They're averaging just a hair over 6 runs a game. But as it seems to be the tradition of this second half, the Phillies have another potential injury issue. So we'll get into all of that and more on the Phillies with Ryan Lawrence now. Ryan, how you doing this afternoon?
Good. What's going on?
All right. So yesterday in the game, I had one of those moments where I just sighed and shook my head. So when the line drive went off of Adam Morgan, all I could think of was, so it's Nola, it's Velasquez, it's Eflin, it's maybe Hellickson, and now maybe Morgan. I mean, it almost seems like they're running out of pitchers.
Yeah, but I mean, this is why you always and Matt Klentak said this, and Ruben Mar Jr. and pretty much any general manager in baseball would feel the same way as both of those guys, is that you have to have pitching depth. That's probably the single most important thing to building a team. And when Klentak took over, however many months ago it's been now, he said that he planned on fueling this rebuild with waves of pitching. So you need to have more of it, and that's part of the reason they made the Giles trade, is that they were able to bring in more pitching depth when they made the Giles trade. So this is why you have guys like Adam Morgan and David Buchanan in AAA. I mean, those guys aren't going to hurt you when you're rebuilding team in the final 2 months of the season. So if David Buchanan has to come up and take make 7 starts here to finish the season, it's not the end of the world. This is a rebuilding team. They're not trying to win the Bennett. So, yeah, I mean, you just have to have guys like that. I mean, you don't have to necessarily. It'd be great if you have, more pitching prospects, but you also have to realize that there's only so much room on the 40-man roster, and that they can't rush everybody to the big leagues, because then they have to keep some guys. They would have to make some guys subject to the Rule 5 draft this winter. So you're not going to bring up all your prospects in the same year either.
Ryan, you look at this team was so dependent on pitching to start the season, and now this offense has just erupted this month. They're averaging a hair over 6 runs per game. What has been the catalyst of all this?
I don't know. I mean, I think it's kind of baseball, to be honest with you. I mean, we saw this right before the All-Star break. The offense got hot after pretty much not doing anything for the first 3 months of the season. I think it was the end of June that they kind of turned it on for like a 2-week period up into the All-Star break, and then they got cold again out of the break. What's the catalyst? I think it's just kind of there's balance up and down the lineup. I think that you're seeing guys like Cesar Hernandez. He's obviously come on in the last month or so. Beyond that, I mean, it's a lot of guys contributing. And Michael Franco didn't really have a great first half. He's been a factor. And I think even guys like Carlos Ruiz and Ryan Howard, I think, have benefited from part-time play. I mean, you look at their numbers this year, Howard more so in the last two months, because obviously his first 3 months were abysmal, like most of the team. But, yeah, I think that the two veterans have been productive in limited time. I think that they're benefiting from that. So, yeah, I can't really point to one guy. I would just say that it's up and down the lineup. Even Alteri, he's come back, and he's been a guy that's chipped in, and obviously they missed his bat for the first 3-4 months of the season. So it's been a combination of a couple different things.
Speaking of the hitters, Ryan Howard, he's batting, I believe it's a .378 since the All-Star break. He's had 5 home runs, 13 RBI. The guy's been pretty good. I mean, I know it's only been about 46 plate appearances, but, Ryan Howard has really turned it around, and because of that, is he in a situation now where the Phillies can maybe put him on waivers, let him clear waivers, and maybe move him to a contending team?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's impossible. I mean, I think what people have to realize is that, when guys are getting traded, it's not always guys that are going to be put into the middle of anybody's lineup, or guys that are going to be the difference maker at the top of the rotation. I mean, the Phillies in 2008 added 2 guys in August that were smaller role-type players, but who had a difference. I mean, Scott Ayer was a lefty out of the bullpen that they were able to get in August, and Matt Stairs was the guy they got in August, who was a very good bat off the bench, obviously, in the 2008 playoffs. And, yeah, I think that Ryan Howard could be like the latter. I mean, if there's a team out there that thinks that he can be that guy that can have some success, even if he's not playing regularly, he can come off the bench and be a home run threat. I think there's a chance. I mean, then again, I think, come playoff time, if a manager of a playoff team brings Ryan Howard in, most likely the other managers will bring a left-hander in, and then Ryan Howard is kind of rendered useless because against left-handers he still struggles. But that said, I would just say that there is still a slim chance that some team could maybe they'll think that he can ride this into September, and there might be an American League team that could use help from a DH. And again, if he's playing in limited time, I think that he could help a team. But again, you're not trading for him thinking he's going to be the difference.
Speaking with Brian Lawrence, covers the Phillies for PhillyVoice.com. Ryan, Howard has said that, and I'm a little surprised he even came out and said this. He said that he's interested in playing next year. Well, his contract is up with the Phillies. Do you think he really has a chance of leaving and going somewhere? I mean, I know he's been hot the second half of the season, but the first half of the season and the last couple of years, he's let's say he's looked a lot more than just mortal out there.
Ryan Howard, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's been in decline for a few years now, and then, I think a lot of it has to do with, when he ruptured his Achilles, it took a long time to heal because then it led to a knee injury, and his legs just haven't been the same. So it's all these guys. I mean, rarely does the guy come out and say, after this year I'm done, because then they might as well just quit right then. I mean, what's the point? So I think all professional athletes have that mindset that, they're not going to give up until, Jimmy Rollins is a prime example of this. I talked to Jimmy in the end of April when he was with the White Sox, and I said, how much longer do you think you play? Well, I'm going to keep going until I don't think I can go anymore, or someone else tells me I can't do it. And, someone else told him he couldn't do it, so that's what happened about a month later. I think that Ryan is going to say that he wants to play. Why would he? He's a competitive guy, and, like I said, all professional athletes are built that way, but I think when the winter comes and his phone's not ringing, then that's kind of when he'll realize that it probably is it for him. But, yeah, I mean, credit him to wanting to play. I mean, I've never really – I remember people got on Brett Favre, and now, like, Alex Rodriguez, they'd be all up in arms if he comes back. But who are any of us to say when someone should quit? I mean, it's their job. If they want to go out and do it and they enjoy it, more power to them. That's the way I look at it.
You mentioned Jimmy Rollins. We just talked about Ryan Howard. Well, there's a guy coming to town who was the other part of that trifecta. Chase Utley is returning to Philadelphia after being traded. What do you think the reception is going to be like for Utley? And do you think that there'll be cheers for him throughout the series? Or do you think he'll get one nice standing applause, he'll tip the hat, and the rest of the series they might just boo him?
Booing? I don't think that there's a single chance that Chase Utley gets booed. I think Chase Utley could hit a grand slam to win the game in the ninth inning.
And they'll cheer him?
They might not cheer, but he doesn't get booed. If he gets booed, it'd be like in a mocking way, like in a kind of a having fun with him way. I think is more I don't know what the word is, appreciated or revered or whatever.
Beloved,
anybody,
maybe?
Yeah, than that. Anybody in that era from 2006 whatever to 2012, like he is the guy that I don't know many people that do not like Chase Utley. So I think it's going to be a love fest for 3 days. Obviously the first at bat he's going to get a standing ovation, kind of similar to the one that Rollins got. But yeah, I think it'll go out throughout the series. I think that they're just going to enjoy watching him play, and he was fun to watch play. So I don't know if he'll start every game. I know the Dodgers I think have been backing off a little bit with his everyday play, but yeah, I think that it'll be fun. Anytime any of these guys comes back, it's usually a treat for the fans because it's a reminder of how great things were not that long ago, and what a special core it was to have all those guys on the team at the same time.
Yeah, Dodgers manager Dave Roberts has said that they're kind of cutting back on at least at bats in the month of August to try to save him for the stretch run because the Dodgers expect to make the playoffs. The thing with Utley is, and I wanted to ask you about this because you just brought up the fact that this is a guy who was so, and I use the word beloved as my descriptive, but Howard's the one who was one of the top sluggers in baseball for a 6-year period. Rollins had the MVP as well, like Howard did, and the Gold Gloves. Utley didn't have the multitude of awards and things the other guys did. Why is it that he was so loved by the Philly fans?
Yeah, it's a great question. I asked this to Joe Blanton when I was in the Dodgers locker room back in, I guess it was May, that I went and I caught up with Utley when he was in New York with the Dodgers. And I remember I asked Blanton that because Blanton had played with him in Philly too. And I think it's just kind of just the style that he plays and the way that he plays. And, it's interesting what people gravitate to because, you mentioned Rollins and Howard, but even Cole Hamels. I don't think Cole Hamels was quite beloved as I thought he should have been. I mean, this guy was the 2008 World Series MVP, and to me, he should have been a lot more popular than he was. So yeah, it's hard to say what makes a guy popular and more popular than others. But I think it's just the style that Utley played. I mean, he was a guy that, it was really maximum effort all the time, and that that's not dissing anybody else. But it's just that he was going 100 miles an hour all the time, whether it was, diving for balls up the middle or, running balls out or it was just a smart base runner, too. I think Philadelphia is a town that recognizes that stuff, that, it's not just, getting a hit when it counts, but, it's kind of running the bases the right way and taking that extra base when you can. And he did all that stuff every day. I mean, he never took a play off. So I think that's, I think you have to give Philadelphia fans some credit there for being able to recognize that. There's a reason to appreciate a guy that plays the game like that.
I mean, I thought you were going to bring up the fact that Utley hit 7 home runs in 2 World Series appearances, but all that stuff's good too.
Well, yeah, I mean, he delivered too, but, like I said, Cole Hamels put his 2008 World Series against anybody, and he just, it's really strange to me, but I think there's a large segment of the Philadelphia fan base that people like Cliff Lee more than Cole Hamels. I'll never, ever understand that. But yeah, it's weird what makes people more popular than others. Like you can nonchalantly catch a pop fly in a World Series game and you're a big deal. Or you could ride a World Series parade like Cole Hamels did. But yeah, like I said, it's just weird things. I mean, yeah, obviously Utley's 2009 World Series and, his 08 playoffs. And he delivered when he had to all the time. I mean, and that's even in the regular season too. But yeah, I mean, obviously his numbers speak for themselves and his All-Star appearances and all that. But, like you said, Jimmy and Ryan had similar, they have MVPs. And so, yeah, I think what separated Chase from those guys, they all put numbers up. But, it was just the way that Chase played.
Ryan, looking ahead to the Phillies' future, obviously it's so hard to tell sometimes with the way prospects come and go. But, they got a lot of young players here now and coming down the road. Can you pinpoint a group of guys that you think this team is going to legitimately build around going forward? Or do you think that's still in flux because you have some guys who are on the disabled list? You have a situation where you still have guys like Crawford and Williams still have to come up. So I ask, is it still a wait and see to see who's going to be the future foundation for this team, or do we have an idea already?
I think it's fluid. It's just like, the previous, if you want to talk again about that core from 2000, whenever they all came up, that's the point. They all didn't come up at the same time. I mean, Jimmy Rollins was up first, and then, I think it was more than a couple years later. I think Rollins was 99 or 2000. And, Utley didn't come for another 3 years after that, and Howard, Hamels. So, it's not like, boom, all 5 guys are here at once, and this is our core we build around. It's a fluid situation. So, Aaron Altair might be a guy that you build around. I don't know. He hasn't had a full year in the big leagues yet. You have to kind of see. As you said, Crawford's not here. Crawford probably won't come up till beginning of next year. Williams isn't here yet. He might be up in September. I don't know if either one of those guys. I mean, you think Crawford is going to be a big leaguer and be a pretty good one, but we don't know that yet. So, this is all just stuff that has still to be determined. And obviously with pitching staff, you think you should be able to build around an Aaron Nola and Vince Velasquez, but neither one of them have had a full year in the big leagues yet, so you don't know what you have in them. So it's just a very fluid thing. I mean, you're not going to know who that core is until 2 years from now if they're, competing for a wild card. Then you have a better idea of where these guys are as major leaguers. I mean, it's hard to pinpoint right now who the core is because none of them really have big enough track records or track records at all in the big leagues. So, again, it's a fluid situation because not all these guys are going to be here at the same time and competing in the major leagues. And like I said, maybe a year from now you have a little bit better of an idea, but you have to let it all sort out a little bit and see who's who and what they can do at the big league level.
We're talking with Ryan Lawrence, covers the Phillies for PhillyVoice.com. Ryan, I want to look ahead to the rest of this season. We know that a lot of guys could be coming up in September, join the 40-man roster, and we know there's always the option for guys to be traded at the waiver deadline. We mentioned Ryan Howard earlier. Peter Borges is healthy again. But as the season winds down, do you think that the original goal of the season, which in my opinion was just to see these young guys come up, see them progress, and see what you can do and can't do with them moving in the future, do you think the Phillies have fully accomplished that goal? Or do you think, at times, because of the injuries, because of different things that happened, that certain of these projects kind of got derailed overall?
Well, you can't control injuries, and every major league team has to deal with injuries. I mean, there isn't a team out there. Look at the Mets. The Mets wanted to win a World Series this year, and they've been besieged with injuries. So yeah, you can't control that. That's the X factor that's going to delay every team in one way or another, whether they're trying to compete for a pennant or whether they're trying to rebuild and then see what they have. So no, I think that whatever the goal this year was to kind of keep this rebuild going and then to move it forward. And I think they've done that. You know a little bit better what you have in guys like Vince Velasquez and Jared Eichhoff and Zach Eflin. But yeah, I mean, injuries are just going to happen, and that's just going to derail it. But they still have a better idea who all these guys are, and even the offensive side of the thing. You have an idea who Cameron Rupp is, Odubel Herrera is. These guys that have had a chance to play all year. This is they're making and breaking their chances. I mean, if you're a guy like Cameron Rupp and you had a really bad year this year, you probably weren't going to be a part of things going into 2017. So I think that he, has moved forward, and he's shown the team that he can be a catcher that they could count on going into next year, and that allows them maybe to not rush other guys to the big leagues just yet. So that's just one small example. But yeah, I think that it's surely it's been a productive year for the team because they're moving the rebuild forward. Maybe it's not as fast as people want it to be, but you have to have patience with these things because you have to let it play out. You can't like I said, you can't rush everybody to the big leagues at the same time because there's just a time and a place for when guys are ready. And as I said, you can only have so many guys in that 40-man roster too.
One final question before I let you go. It looks like from what I've been reading that Hellickson's next start is going to be pushed off till Saturday. Can you explain that a little bit?
Well, yeah, he has a bad back, and they've had a couple off days. They're off today, and they were off on Thursday. So they've been able to manipulate the rotation without moving anybody drastically. Everybody's put you on the regular rest, so they've just been able to use these 2 off days that they've had in the last 5 days, I guess it is, and they've been able to take advantage of that and push Hellickson back. He just has a sore back, and I guess as long as it feels good going into tomorrow, they'll probably make it official that he'll be in the rotation on Saturday. And if he's not, they'll have to make a move. I mean, they have a couple of guys at AAA that they can call up to make a start. But yeah, I mean, like I said, when you have 2 off days in such a short window like they've had here in the last week, that just affords you to kind of give a guy a couple extra days if he needs it. So.
Be sure to check out everything Ryan writes over at PhillyVoice.com. He covers the Phillies, does a great job. Ryan, appreciate you joining me on a Monday.
Okay, no problem. Have a good one.